UFC Vegas 67 will be kicking off the 2023 year for the UFC. The fight card takes place next Saturday. Kelvin Gastelum will be versing Nassourdine Imavov in the main event. A proven veteran in Kelvin Gastelum, who's been going through some turbulence as of recently. He has a tough test in front of him. Up-and-coming fighter like Imavov, who has proven to be very dangerous. It definitely should be a solid fight there. Other than that, we have a lot of up-and-coming prospects fighting throughout this card. A lot of fighters that made splashes on Dana White's Contender Series, getting their first introduction to an official UFC fight. We're excited for a lot of those fighters to touch down in the canvas. Other than that, you want to talk about prospects in the game. We got the young Nurmagomedov stepping in the cage once again. You want to talk about as bright of a prospect as we can talk about in the game. You're talking about Umar Nurmagomedov, and he has a tough test in front of him in Raoni, Barcelos. So that's a fight that definitely stands out to me. Other than that, if you guys didn't catch my recap of the year 2022, it was another profitable year, profiting over 55 units on the year. I feel great about that. We had a great ROI. We really put in some solid work. So just so you guys know, for those of you guys that don't pay attention so much to the numbers, you guys are watching a legit show here. You got a capper that's really putting in some work and is delivering in regards to the numbers. So I feel great about that, and I do have to touch upon that real quick. All right, guys, let's jump into the fight card. Let's go.
The teller.
It's another day, left jab, right jab, this is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts, undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim, looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting, if you lose, keep your chin up. Know how the game go, I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show, this the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
What is up, you guys? We are back. Truly feels great to say that. I've really been eager to get back on the mic here and to be breaking down a UFC fight card. I truly missed it. It seems like it's been a long time. I guess it's been roughly 3 weeks or so. I hope all of you guys had a great holiday. Hope you guys all had a very Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, or whatever holiday you celebrate. Hope you guys had a great New Year. I certainly did. Life's good over here. I hope it is great for all of you guys out there. As I mentioned in the intro, we did hit up a recap here on the channel. You guys can pull that video up. We did a complete recap of the year 2022. It was another profitable year, and as I said, I feel great about it. I really do. 58.83 units of profit throughout the year, an ROI of 14.08. It's outstanding. And the win ratio, again, you guys know the win ratio doesn't mean much. 65.7 win ratio there. So if you guys are interested, go check that video out. Other than that, before we get into the fight card breakdown, please subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. And of course, you guys can catch me over on Instagram at MMA Fortune Teller _, where I'm really putting out great content daily, and as well as on Twitter at the MMA Teller. And again, you guys can expect great content continuously coming to you. It means a lot to me for you guys to go follow all that stuff. So with that all said, we're going to be jumping right into the first fight of the first event of 2023, and that is going to be Priscila Cachoeira taking on Sijara Eubanks. Now, I'll tell you guys this. At first thought, when I saw this matchup and I took a look at the betting line, which sneak peek, Sijara Eubanks is a decent favorite here. I was kind of questioning that betting line. Sijara Eubanks, she has only won one of her last 4 fights, as you guys see here, coming off that third round loss against Melissa Gatto, where she got kicked to the midsection, kind of got, I don't know if she got the air knocked out of her or she kind of got hit in the liver. It was kind of like that midsection hit where she just kind of shut the body down, and it was kind of an awkward finish. Melissa Gatto didn't really quite understand that she stopped the fight and didn't really know how to run in and capitalize it. She capitalized on that situation. She kind of froze up and was shocked that she finished her fight in defeat. And we know Gato, more of a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player. And that's really the case with Sijara Eubanks as well. I mean, she's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who's had much success with her grappling. She has nasty ground and pound. I mean, if you want to talk about one of the best performances that she's ever put on in the UFC was definitely against Elise Reed in her second previous fight, the fight before where she just got finished. So I mean that wasn't long ago. Again, that victory over Elise Reed where she just beat the crap out of her. That was a year and a half ago. Sijara Eubanks, almost 38 years old, but seems to be in good shape, and I definitely think she can still capitalize against an opponent that is lacking with their takedown defense and ground game. Priscila Cachoeira, she's a fighter that has proven to have some serious power for women's mixed martial arts. There's not a lot of girls going out there and getting knockouts the way that she does, coming off another knockout victory in her KO victory against Ariane Lipski. Defeated Ji Young Kim. That was a very close fight, could have went either way. Nevertheless, it was an impressive performance because she went to war and she showed she's tough as nails. The Jillian Robertson fight, I want to talk about that. We're going to go back to that fight here in a second. But before that, a knockout over Gina Mazzani and a knockout over Shayna Dobson. Again, just highlighting the power that Priscila does have. Now, I said I wanted to talk about that Jillian Robertson fight. That's because in that fight, she was taken down very easily and was submitted with ease by Jillian. Now, Jillian Robertson, her ground game is nasty. In fact, she just had a major submission victory over in a grappling match just recently against. Let's pull it up real quick. If you guys didn't catch that over the holiday, Jillian Robertson just submitted Rose Namajunas, actually. So she just had a submission victory, a rear naked choke in the first round over Rose Namajunas, who we know has some good jiu-jitsu herself. I mean, you guys know I've been high on Jillian for a long time. So, like we talked about Sijara Eubanks' ground game. I do believe that Jillian Robertson's a little bit on another level, especially when it comes to actually getting the submission. But Sijara Eubanks has shown to have some nasty ground and pound. I'm going to cut to the chase here. Like I said, initially, I thought maybe there was more value on Priscila, and I was actually almost targeting her as my pick here. But the more that I recapped the tape on these fighters, I really didn't like the way Priscila was taken down so easily by Jillian Robertson. And when you take a look at some of her victories, they're more against fighters that don't really have. Ariane Lipski. More of a striking based fighter. She's pulled off some subs and whatnot, but you don't really see a lot of opponents here where she has the W's that really have a solid ground game like Sijara Eubanks does have. So I gotta lean towards Sijara Eubanks getting an early takedown and really doing some damage. Now, here's something that we got to take note of as well, though. Sijara Eubanks, in her last fight against Melissa Gatto, where she had some success with her early takedowns and whatnot, she did slow down in that fight. She slowed down in the third round. That's where she got finished. If she struggles with not finishing this fight or not really inflicting a lot of damage on Priscila early, I could see Sijara Eubanks possibly wearing herself out, getting tired, trying to force those takedowns, and Priscila landing some big shots and potentially getting a finish late in the fight, just as Melissa Gatto did a year ago. Priscila has some serious power, and she has potential to stop this fight, but I can't pick her to win this fight here in the first fight of 2023 based on the fact she stands very upright, and I could see Sarge getting in on those hips and getting a takedown, and we'll see what she could do with it down there. I'm going to take the grappler over the striker here. Give me Sijara Eubanks. You see she's a minus 210 here. I feel there's more value on that plus 170 line on Priscila Cachoeira. I think that line favors Priscila more so, and it should come down a little bit. I don't really like Sarge over a 2-1 favorite in this spot. I'd like the fact she has that grappling, but coming off that knockout loss and the way she kind of gassed in the third round, that line should be more like a minus 165 in my opinion. So we'll see how that fight plays out. But my pick's going to be Sijara Eubanks with more value on the Priscila Cachoeira line. So I recently just made a post on my IG about a fighter that I'm very excited to see step back into the octagon, and that is Tatiana Suarez. She's coming off a 3-year layoff, an undefeated fighter that is very, very promising. You want to talk about a fighter that has been away for a while, that's stepping back in there. A little bit of a different situation with Jimmy Flick, but I am excited to see Jimmy stepping back into the cage. He actually temporarily retired from the sport of MMA, whereas Suarez has battled some other issues and whatnot, injuries and stuff like that. But Jimmy Flick, not to say that he hasn't had his own injuries, but if you've been keeping up with him on IG, I think it was a little bit of him just kind of needing a break from the sport. I know that he was actually trying to get into a little bit of the fight predicting, and I know he's into betting on MMA and whatnot as well. I mean, you see him on his Instagram doing that type of stuff as well. But when you have competition in that field, like the teller out there, it's a little bit tough, to get your feet, dug down deep in the ground. It's a little bit of the more easy route to step back in the cage and battle with guys like Charles Johnson. So, I'm just kidding. Charles Johnson is a serious test. In this matchup here, I like the fact for Charles Johnson, I like the fact that he's been more active. He's been getting his feet wet in the octagon. Of course, only 2 fights in the UFC so far, but they both took place recently. And he's been in there with some legit talent. Of course, he had that match against Muhammad Makayev where he kind of performed better than a lot of people thought that he would have. And then in his last fight, he had a tough test against Algas Umagulov, which was a close fight. But you like that he's getting those rounds in the cage, and that he really had a test in front of him. I mean, he went at it with Zalgas. So I think those are things that benefit him. I like Energy's boxing. I know he has some pro boxing experience as well. I like his hands. I like his activity with his striking. He's a well-rounded fighter. Now for Jimmy Flick, we talked about the fact that he stepped away. I mean, I don't necessarily like that when a fighter steps away. I mean, and it's talking about retirement and whatnot. I don't think that that's something that benefits them typically. I don't know where he's at mentally, but you see him here. He's grinding it back out. I mean, he's definitely taking the comeback seriously. We know Jimmy Flick is a fighter that has some serious submission skills. You take a look at Jimmy Flick's resume. Almost all of his victories are via submission. I mean, he's nasty. He pulls them off in a variety of ways. We saw him make a splash on Dana White's Contender Series, and we'll talk about what he's done real quick. So he had that submission over Nate Smith, who was undefeated coming into that fight, got the arm triangle choke. And then he had the victory with the flying triangle over Cody Durden in his UFC debut, which was about 2 years ago. The line, we're going to get to the line here in a second, but I am going to say, when we just talked about all these the different details going into this matchup, I do favor more so the fact of Charles Johnson's activity and his love and desire for the sport. From what I've seen right now, he's very hungry. He's a fighter that's talked about wanting to fight 4 or 5 times a year. He just wants to keep getting thrown in there. I love his eagerness and his love for the sport. I think he's going to have an edge with his boxing and his striking, especially from a volume standpoint. And Jimmy Flick will more so try to look for that sub. But Charles Johnson's a guy I believe has never been subbed. So, listen, if there's a guy that can go out there and sub you, Jimmy Flick is that guy. We talked about the diversity in his submission attacks as well. I mean, he does it all types of ways. Flying triangle choke, we talked about that. Arm triangle chokes, shoulder choke, guillotines. Some of these submissions early on, they're not even labeling what kind of subs they are. They probably couldn't even comprehend what kind of submission it was over at Extreme Fight Night 340. But do understand that Jimmy Flick will be very live to pull off some type of sub here. But I gotta lean Charles Johnson in this spot. But he is a minus 350, as you see over here on Bovada.lv. That's a little crazy to me. That's a little crazy to me. Charles Johnson hasn't been dominant in the UFC since joining in his 2 fights. Again, we talked about the level of competition. It's been good, but still, he hasn't been dominant in the cage. And now Jimmy Flick's a guy that's proven, and he's been getting his arm raised since he's been fighting with the UFC brass. Jimmy Flick is definitely live for a sub here. Maybe you take a look at that submission prop bet. Or maybe you're targeting him as a dog, because this is going to be another fight where I say that the line is off. I'm favoring Charles Johnson to get the job done here. I think we have to lean Charles Johnson when we take everything into consideration. And again, really taking a look at the striking advantage of Charles and the activity on the feet and being able to avoid that sub most likely. But Jimmy Flick is live for a sub, and he's crafty and tricky and could definitely mess up a parlay of yours if you're throwing Johnson in there, in my opinion. So the line's off. That line needs to come down to like a minus 250 on Charles Johnson. So value on Jimmy Flick, but again, I'm going to be picking Charles Johnson, as most people are. Dan Argueta, the Ultimate Fighter veteran, taking on Isaac Dulgarian, the Midwest Choppa, who's looking to make his UFC debut here. Has a tough test in front of him. Anyone that knows about Dan Argueta, they know what he's about. And this is a guy that has some serious wrestling, really good cardio, pushes the pace on his opponents. And then you got Isaac Dulgarian, who's 5-0. He's undefeated. And this is really a good matchup, in my opinion. This is some really good matchmaking because Argueta, do believe he took that fight on short notice and stepped up a weight class, right, against Damon Jackson, who we'll be talking about a little bit later. So he was kind of owed a fight that was, on paper, not the most dangerous. I mean, you got a guy here that's 5-0. It's his first fight in the UFC. It's not really proven. But if you take a look into what Dulgarian is about, this is a fighter that has a serious wrestling background. As far as in the cage, you break down tape on him. I mean, he's ripping down all of his opponents down to the mat and dominating them down there. He does have an experience. He has experience in the wrestling field. I'm trying to remember what college he went to. I do believe he wrestled in college. I don't want to just throw that out there. He was a Division I wrestler. I do believe he may have been a Division I wrestler. I know he has a legit wrestling background, okay? So I'm kind of interested to see how they're going to clash in that department when they lock horns and they're in the clinch. And I want to see who's really who comes out on top in those situations. Now, from a striking perspective, I haven't really been that impressed from what I've seen from Argueta or Dulgarian, if I'm being honest. And I think they could be in trouble against certain fighters in the division moving forward if they don't continue to work and polish those skills up. But they will. I mean, these are legit competitors here. You see Argueta, he says warriors have to do warrior stuff there, so he's shaving the head up. This is something I noticed, guys that are shaving their head. I don't know. Some of these guys just don't shave it that well and they leave it kind of patchy. I mean, if you're gonna shave your head, make sure you cut it even there. But anyways. Back to the matchup here. I think neither of these fighters have really proven to have an edge on the feet, so I'm kind of interested to see how that takes place. I remember Argueta kind of having some success against Jackson, as Jackson was kind of gassing out a little bit, forcing those takedowns, and then Argueta unfortunately went back to his wrestling when he potentially could have stopped Jackson or hurt him really bad in that fight. But again, take note that fight was up a weight class against a fighter that's much bigger than him. And Argueta's working on his striking here. Isaac Dulgarian, I believe he got his first knockout victory against TJ Britton, proven veteran with a decent record, an older fighter. I got to lean Daniel Argueta here. Got to lean Daniel Argueta just based on the fact that I've been impressed with him since The Ultimate Fighter. He has the octagon experience at this point in time. He's just a little bit more proven and a little bit more experienced overall in the sport of MMA. He's a minus 193 favorite here against Isaac with the comeback on Isaac at plus 158. That line seems about right to me. I kind of had this fight capped right around minus 200. I could see Argueta being a 2-1 favorite. But if Argueta is going to run into some trouble, it's going to be based on the fact that Dulgarian may prove that his wrestling and grappling is actually very legit. We'll see about that. Again, he's been doing it against kind of lower level fighters. Let's see how he faces against a guy like Argueta. But if he can have success there, we could see this fight actually play out closer than some people think. But Dan the man, Dan is a serious fighter, and I don't have a problem with that line being up towards a minus 200 line. We'll see how that takes place, though. Isaac, the book is not out on him at all. The book is just being written, so let's see what it's about. We get a flyweight matchup here between Allan Nascimento and Carlos Hernandez. Carlos Hernandez coming off his UFC debut where he had a victory over Victor Altamirano. That was a fight that I felt that he shouldn't have got the nod in. I thought that Victor won that fight. It was a close fight, but I did feel that Victor did enough to get the job done there, and Carlos was lucky to get his hand raised. Speak of fighters being lucky or not lucky to get their hand raised. I mean, Allan Nascimento, you take a look at his last 5 fights, in particularly his last 4 fights since he's been working with the UFC. Split decision loss to Julian Paiva. That was a very close matchup, a great fight. Had the victory over Elivaldo Limas, where he pulled off the rear naked choke, and then in his UFC debut against Tager Ulanbekov, I believe he took that fight on short notice, and that was a fight that I did think that he deserved to get his hand raised, and he did not. So that was a very tough fight for him, taking that fight on short notice. I believe that was on a card that took place in Abu Dhabi. I think Tager had a little bit of a hometown edge there, and they didn't give Nascimento the nod, and that was a little bit of a shame. And then he bounces back in his next fight with the victory over Jake Hadley, you guys know I'm high on that kid, and although he had a tough time in his UFC debut, he showed again in his last fight that he is talented. He's a legit fighter. So I think that really shows what Nascimento is about. Nascimento is very big for the weight class. He's a solid flyweight fighter. He's a well-rounded fighter. What I've been very impressed with him, though, is his grappling and his jiu-jitsu. He's really shown some promise down in the mat. I mean, this is a guy that can really take advantage of his opponent if they're not up to par. And and his opponent, he's kind of just a well-rounded fighter. He's a well-rounded fighter in Carlos Hernandez, but doesn't really do anything amazing to me. He has decent boxing, decent grappling. I think that Nascimento is going to be a step above here. I think that Nascimento is going to get the job done. He shows to be the better fighter when you take a look at the fight tape, when you take a look at the resume and you're looking and you're checking off boxes. Nascimento is the fighter that should be getting his hand raised when this fight's over. So let's go take a look at the betting line and see what Bovada is talking about. Check it out. A minus 400, a big time favorite is Allan Nascimento. Let's take a look at something real quick, right? Carlos Hernandez. This is the flyweight division. Typically, you don't see as many finishes. He hasn't had a finish since 2020. Outside of the UFC, pulled off a couple of rear naked chokes against very low level opponents. I do not see him pulling off a rear naked choke against a guy like Nascimento, a high level jiu-jitsu player. And that's why I think that the line's quite high on Nascimento. He should be able to avoid danger. Hernandez hasn't really shown that he's too much of a threat on the feet to go out there and starch an opponent. And Nascimento should just be the better fighter and should cruise his way to a victory, possibly pulling off a submission down on the mat or something like that. So give me Allan Nascimento. He's a minus 400. It's a little bit of a high line. Not going to be a major return there. You could throw this into a parlay, or you could look at a submission prop. I wouldn't really have a problem with any of those at that type of line on a guy like Allan Nascimento in this situation. Believe it or not, even as high as the line is, I'll lean more value on the minus 400 line because I think that Allan's just going to handle business. We got a very intriguing matchup here. Mateus Mendonça taking on Javid Basharat. Javid, you know that I've been very high on him. Just actually having an official play on him in his last fight against Tony Gravely, a fighter that I have a lot of respect for, and he was able to go get the job done against a guy like Tony. That is impressive. That fight was about 3 months ago. Mateus Mendonça just had a big-time knockout victory over Ige Ajim on Dana White's Contender Series. Ajim is a fighter that we've seen fighters like Chael Sonnen praise. He's a dangerous fighter, a lot of finishes throughout his resume, and Mateus went out there and just starched him. So that was the introduction of Mendonça to us. I mean, he definitely showed he has some serious power in his hand, kind of clipped his opponent over the side of the ear and just, put it on him there early. You see him here celebrating with the man, Dana White. What do you guys think? I don't know if you want to hit up the comment section. If you guys are supporting Dana with that incident, or if you're going against them, maybe I'll do a video about it. But Dana White, the legend Dana White, I think you guys know where I stand, man. Nothing but respect for Dana. Dana's done so much for the sport. But you see Mateus celebrating with some Holler Head, some real quality whiskey there. But you know what, man, good for him getting the contract, and now the UFC throws him up against a fighter that a lot of people have marked down to be a future top 10 perennial fighter in the division. Some people feel like that about Javid. I mean, he's so technically sound. A lot of people feel that he's going to be hanging around the top 10 for a long time, if not even praising him more so, saying that he pushes way up towards the top of the division. He checks off a lot of boxes. He's a good grappler. He has good jiu-jitsu. He's very technical at the striking, throws nice leg kicks from the outside, has a high fighter IQ. He can go out there and easily work a nice decision. He'll play it safe. He could do a lot of stuff. He can hit the gas and really push the pace in his opponent. He could do a lot of everything. So I've been very high on Javid. But as we go look at the betting line here, because I think that we need to know the betting line before we go on about this fight, Javid Basharat's a minus 425. I think that that's a high line against a guy, Mateus Mendonça, who's undefeated. And although we didn't know a crazy amount about him going into that fight, his Dana White's Contender Series fight, we do know that he is dangerous now. We know that he's dangerous, and we know that he throws with some serious power. And real quick, I mean, we'll just run through his 10-0 record. At the very least, it's a 10-0 record. He's 23 years old. He's young, and he shows a lot of potential. But I mean, we see some first round finishes sprinkled through his resume here, man. Victory over Victor Nato, a guy that had no pro experience, but still going out there, starching him, pulling off an armbar against Paulo Enrique Rodriguez. That fight may have been on YouTube, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure if that was, but another first round knockout, another first round finish here, another first round finish here. Not against opponents that don't have a lot of experience, but at the same time, he's getting the job done. And then you see, he does have a victory over an opponent that had a 21-5 record over Pedro Nombre. So it's not like he's never been in there with an opponent that has some experience. But Javid, to me, is the more proven fighter at this point in time, and you gotta lean Javid Basharat to get the job done here, in my opinion. I'm very high on him, but I do believe that the betting line is off, and I'm not really crazy about a minus 425 line on him. I think the value is on Mateus Mendonça, but you're kind of going in a little bit blindfolded. We need to see more from Mendonça against more high-level competition. But again, 425 on Javid, I don't know if what you guys are doing with that. Be careful. Be careful. This guy Mendonça is an athlete who has some serious power. Mateus Rębecki taking on Nick Fiore. Mateus Rębecki, he was one of those fighters I was referring to earlier that really made a splash on Dana White's Contender Series. This guy is a grown man. And when you throw him in there with some of these young up-and-coming fighters, I don't know. It could be trouble. I mean, this guy, he has a little bit of that Pluto syndrome. You guys know I've referred to this in the past. Pluto from Popeye, just the beard stick, the muscles are pumped up, man. This guy has that old man strength. I don't know, man. Mateus Rębecki, the performance that he had on Dana White's Contender Series against Rodrigo Lidio was very impressive. Went out there, got the rear naked choke. Just showed that his grappling is very, very high level. Nick Fiore, this is a fighter that, to be honest, I didn't really know too much about. But before this fight was announced, he's getting an opportunity on the big show with a 6-0 pro record. Not a lot of fights there. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's part of the New England cartel now. He's fighting out of New Hampshire, I believe, originally. And obviously, there's some legit fighters over at the New England cartel. I mean, most importantly, Rob Font and Calvin Cater. But the fact that he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, I mean, we're going to see that tested for sure, but that's something that he does have going good for him, because otherwise Rębecki, if you're not up to par there, Rębecki will just completely abuse you and submit you within seconds, in my opinion. So I'm curious to see how Fiore looks there. Fiore 6-0, fighting against opponents that really had not much going on. That's something that's not really looking great for him. I mean, fighters with losing records scattered throughout his resume. This guy, Jay Ellis, and in fact, he fought him his first and second time as a pro. This guy's a 15-98 record. What's up with that? So Fiore not completely tested, and he's going to be tested when it comes to this upcoming Saturday. You got to lean Rębecki here in this spot. But this is a fight that you're going in a little bit blindfolded. I mean, you pull up a limited tape you can pull up on Fiore, try to figure out what you can figure out about him, but you could pull up one of his fights here on his Instagram where he had a TKO victory in the first round. You see him shooting for the takedown, getting the fight down to the mat here. I'm really interested to see how these guys match up on the ground, but everything here screams Rębecki to me. This guy just has that old man, or I should say old man, that man strength, and I think that he's going to be the stronger fighter here, and I think we're going to see some blood. But I wouldn't be shocked if the fight plays out more competitive than some people think. I wouldn't be shocked. We'll see what's up with this kid, Fiore. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he's decently tough. He's tough, and he's going to go in there and try to hang with Rębecki. But Rębecki, man, this guy's an animal. So he's a minus 650 on Bovada. Big-time favorite here. Of course, I'm picking him to win the fight. It's a high line. I don't know if I could really say there's value on Fiore at a plus 425. I mean, I guess you got to lean more towards that way. I don't know. This is a tough one to say. That line's high in Rębecki. It's hard to sit here and say, there's value on a minus 650 line, but I guess that's the way I'm going to go because I've been impressed with him. He's one of those fighters that's just instantly going to step into the octagon and prove that he's a UFC caliber fighter, and not just a UFC caliber fighter, but a guy that can hang with the top 15 of the division. So you got to go with Rębecki here. And of course, you guys know when I see these types of fighters, traveling the world and putting in time at some of the best camps, definitely worth noting. You see him shoulder to shoulder with a coach like Matt Brown, training over at American Top Team in Coconut Creek, the legit American Top Team. Yes, that does mean a lot to me. So that's even something else he has going for himself. I mean, training and just rubbing shoulders with the best of them. Abdul Razak Alhassan taking on Claudio Ribeiro. Abdul Razak Alhassan, man, this guy is he's a real firecracker, man. This guy, he's just an explosive athlete. He has some serious finishing power on the feet. He's definitely gone through some turbulence as of recently. We could pull up his resume. He's only won one of his last 5 fights, but let's take a look, into his entire UFC career. He's 5-5. Remember him back in the day, just going out there and just always going in looking for the early knockout victories in the first round over Charlie Ward, Conor McGregor's boy, who Conor was able to get him into the UFC. The victory over Sabah Hamasi twice. Remember, there was some controversy the first time they fought about the stoppage and whatnot. So they ran that back at UFC 220, and same result though. The victory over Nico Price, going out there and knocking out Nico Price in the first round. And then he had a tough time, right, against Manor Laziz, Chaos Williams, and Jacob Malkoun. And there was definitely some question marks about his cardio and his ability to prevail in the later rounds. He definitely was exploited there a bit. We saw Jacob Malkoun have success in the later rounds. Manor Laziz, also more of a kickboxing fighter, but actually was having success later in the fight, just having the better cardio and better gas tank. He also got knocked out in the first round against KS Williams, so that was something that we weren't used to seeing as well, and that was something that we were a little bit worried about going into future fights after that time, and the way he was starched within 30 seconds by Chaos. But since that knockout loss, the chin has held up. Just went to a split decision fight with Joaquin Buckley, a tough fighter. Got to mention the head kick knockout he had over Alessio De Chirico. That was nasty. Again, once again, showing the power that he possesses. Well, his opponent, Claudio Ribeiro, definitely has some serious fight-ending power on the feet as well. I don't think you can deny that. The knockout victory that he just had against Ivan Valenzuela on Dana White's Contender Series early in that fight, that was serious as well. I think there's legit potential for this fight to kick off, and we see both these guys just throwing down in the feet early and somebody getting clipped. Now, if this fight turns out to be a little bit more of a chess match rather than an old-fashioned slugfest, I do believe that favors Alhassan. Not completely, because we still got the question marks about his cardio late and whatnot, but there's just a lot that we don't know about Ribeiro, at least when it comes to Alhassan. He's coming off a fight where he went 3 rounds with a guy like Buckley in a very closely contested matchup, a closely contested match. Ribeiro, on the other hand, if we take a dive into Ribeiro just a little bit deeper, 10-2 as a pro, not a lot of high-level opponents as of recently. He's getting the job done against these guys, a lot of first-round victories like Alhassan has. Besides the Ivan Valenzuela fight, which I did like that victory for him, of course. Besides that, I wasn't really overly impressed with his resume. Has a split decision loss to a guy named Kavim Felipe, who's at 5-5 as a pro. Obviously a below average fighter. I know at 5-5 you think that's an average fighter. I don't know. I look at a 5-5 pro fighter below average. So that's not really a good look. Alhassan has been a little bit more proven. He's been battle tested in the UFC. Obviously he's known to have been working on his cardio based on some of the situations he's been in. So he's always, I believe he's working and trying to sharpen that aspect of his game. Just a little bit more battle tested in the octagon, and I'll favor Alhassan in that situation. But again, that's not necessarily how I see this fight playing out. I think these guys are going to come out, start throwing down, and I think there's legit potential that either man gets put to sleep. All right, so yes, I am saying there's a legit potential that Alhassan gets slept by Ribeiro. Ribeiro just, that guy, he shows to have some serious power, and he's not hesitant. All right, this guy is not gun shy at all. He's coming out and he's throwing leather. All right, so we take a look at the betting line here. Alhassan is a -114, but they come back on Ribeiro at -109. This is essentially a pick'em fight. Okay, you could pick your poison here, whoever you like. I've been a little bit back and forth on this match. I've really been back and forth on this match here. I'm gonna actually be settling with the Claudio Ribeiro pick. I was impressed with the finish that he had on the show. I know we talked about some of those question marks, and maybe he gets a little bit outclassed if he doesn't get that knockout. But something tells me that he's gonna land a big shot here. And even if he doesn't finish Alhassan, we talked about the fact that Alhassan's looked a little bit better going late in fights and whatnot. He had that fight with Buckley. Maybe Ribeiro still looks a little bit better there. Maybe we see Ribeiro get on top of Alhassan, kind of grind him out a little bit too. I don't know. I've seen some tape of Ribeiro working his jiu-jitsu and working his ground game a little bit, even though, of course, he favors his striking in his hands. This is a fight that my heart's telling me Ribeiro, but my mind was telling me Alhassan, but eventually I went with my heart here. I'm taking Ribeiro. I have a feeling that that pick going with my heart. I don't know why. I just think it's going to prevail here. I think Ribeiro, I think he has a fire behind him and coming into his UFC debut. I just have this gut feeling he gets the job done. So that's a closely contested match here, but give me Ribeiro to get the job done. Umar Nurmagomedov taking on Raoni Barcelos. Umar Nurmagomedov, you want to talk about a prospect. This is a 5-star prospect. This is a Bo Nickel type prospect. Obviously, I mean, he's been getting his feet wet in the octagon. Already has, what do we got now? We got 3 fights in the UFC, but dating back to about 2 years ago. I still look at him as a prospect, though. He's 26 years old, and he's still showing us what he's all about. So, I mean, now he's stepping in there with a guy like Raoni Barcelos, who I do feel is a step up in competition. Raoni Barcelos, although he's had a tough time as of recently, especially when you take a look at the work he was doing towards the beginning of his UFC career. He really had a lot of momentum behind him. And then, of course, that momentum was derailed when he dropped the fight against Timur Valiev. And then the Victor Henry loss was, without a doubt, the most disappointing fight of his career. That was a fight where he was a major favorite and just seemed to be very off in that fight. Now, the thing you have to take into consideration is that although you still see Barcelos is in phenomenal shape, he's not a spring chicken, as I like to say. Okay, he's not a spring chicken. He's an old hen that's in the back of the coop. And I mean, let's take a look at his age here. Raoni Barcelos is about to be 36. We're talking about the bantamweight division here. You guys know that the bantamweight division, obviously one of the lower level weight classes. You know, when you get older, it's magnified a little bit. So he has this young gun in Umar Nurmagomedov, who's been training with the best of them. Need I say any more? I mean, Nurmagomedov, a relative of Khabib. I mean, I really don't need to go on too much. I mean, Umar Nurmagomedov is a fighter that has been being groomed by the best of them. You see him over here at AKA training with Javier Hernandez. I mean, I'm just so excited to see how far his career progresses. Now, compared to Khabib, he's been known to have more of a striking, to have more striking abilities. He really uses the kicks well. The way that he has almost like a karate stance at times. He's very light on his feet. He's coming in and out. He really likes to work the kicks. I think that makes him just so much more of an exciting prospect, and there's just more of an excitement when we talk about the potential of Umar Nurmagomedov. Not that, you know, Khabib wasn't one of the most fun fighters to watch with the dominance of his grappling, and I do believe that Umar possesses a lot of those skills in regards to the grappling as well. But I think that we're going to see him land some nasty knockouts throughout his career. I truly believe that. So, of course, I'm just so high on Umar Nurmagomedov. I really am, and I can't wait to see how he performs against a guy in Raoni Barcelos, who is very proven. Raoni Barcelos, a high-level wrestler. Now, that's not something that we always think of when we think of the Brazilian fighters, right? We think more of the jiu-jitsu side of things, the striking and whatnot. Barcelos is a fighter that I believe has represented the country of Brazil in aspects of wrestling in certain tournaments and whatnot, worldwide tournaments. And Barcelos is just a very well-rounded fighter. He could strike, he could grapple, he could do it all. He could wrestle, he has the jiu-jitsu. He'll snatch your back up and choke you out if you're slipping. So if Nurmagomedov is not on his P's and Q's and is not taking this fight extremely serious, he could be in for some danger here. And even if he's taking it very seriously, at the end of the day, this is a step up in competition. Barcelos, 20 pro fights compared to Nurmagomedov's 15 pro fights, whatever, a couple more fights there. But he's older, and Barcelos is older, and he has more experience in the sport of mixed martial arts, in fighting and wrestling. You mix up all the different types of arts. Barcelos has obviously been doing this for a longer period of time. Maybe depending, but you guys know what I'm saying. I mean, Nurmagomedov obviously has been doing it since he's a kid, but Barcelos has been doing it since he's young too, and he's about 10 years older. I don't know. Maybe I'm not, you got to pull up the record books there, but you guys know what I'm saying. He's been doing it longer at the prime age, right? At the ripe age of their careers and whatnot. So we'll see how that all plays out. Obviously, I'm leaning Umar Nurmagomedov. I think most people are. He's a big time favorite here. Let's talk about the betting line because it is a very high line. Umar Nurmagomedov is a -700 against Raoni Barcelos. What am I going to say about this line here? I mean, I think Umar Nurmagomedov is going to get the job done. I think that although Raoni Barcelos is shown to be such a high-level opponent, I haven't been crazy about the way that his skill level has dipped off over the end of his career here. I'm going to mention that Victor Henry fight again because that performance was not good. He got tagged on the feet. He just looked a little bit out of it, out with his feet at times in that fight, just looked a little bit out of it. And, although he did bounce back with the victory over Trevin Jones, he used his wrestling and he was able to solidify rounds and get the job done. He still looked a little bit gun shy and a little bit hesitant in that fight. He didn't really look like the vintage Raoni Barcelos in there. And I expect him to be hesitant against a guy like Umar, who's going to be throwing some tricky kicks at him and whatnot. I think he'll be a little bit more hesitant. And I think at the end of the day, I think Umar will still get the better of the wrestling and the grappling exchanges. I think he'll be a little bit stronger, and he'll be the stronger, younger bull in there. And Umar Nurmagomedov is going to get the job done here. And I'll be excited to see if Umar can get a finish. I'm leaning more towards a dominant decision, which is crazy to say. Yeah, a dominant decision over a proven veteran in Barcelos. I think Nurmagomedov shows his skill levels continuously growing at the ripe age that he's at. He's going to look better and better out there. And I think that he takes over this fight, but I could see Barcelos just doing enough to get respect back where he'll survive in there and he'll let this fight go to the judge's decision, where we will see a unanimous decision, 30-27 Umar Nurmagomedov. The -700 line, I mean, I guess, what do I say here? I mean, you would think I'm going to say that the value is going to be towards Raoni Barcelos, but I don't know, man. That -700 line is so high, but this is a tough one to say because I think that Umar is going to get the job done. I feel he gets the job done. I don't see him losing this fight. So I'm going to point that way. We got a big matchup in the UFC's bantamweight division over on the women's side of things. Ketlen Vieira, who's coming off a big-time main event victory over Holly Holm. A split decision victory. Many felt that Holly did deserve to get the job done there. If you rewatch that fight, it was very close. I've heard people on both sides of the fence. I felt that Holly did enough. I understand that Vieira was kind of landing the more damaging shots in the fight, but that Holly put up some good volume in that fight, and she had some good control. I mean, it could have went either way, but I felt that the veteran deserved to get the nod personally. But I understand if anyone felt that Vieira won that fight. I definitely hear your argument there. She's now won 3 of her last 4 fights, defeating Holly Holm, Miesha Tate, definitely spoiling the party on Miesha Tate's return. And before that, had a loss against Yana Kunitskaya. And then before that, the victory over Sijara Eubanks. And then if you want to go 5 fights back where she got knocked out by Irene Aldana, we know Irene carries some serious power. Raquel Pennington, first off, major respect to Raquel Pennington coming through for an official play of mine against Aspen Ladd that was on that big fight card in Jacksonville. And, she did handle business for me. So always big respect to Raquel Pennington. She's been a very reliable fighter throughout the years. Has Raquel Pennington been. And both these fighters, in my opinion, they have some real similarities. Both these fighters, they're physically strong. They have good boxing. And this is a fight that I really see playing out closely. I've been talking about being on the fence of things. I've been on the fence of who I'm going to go with for this fight. Initially, I was leaning towards Rocky. But, the more I was looking into that Holly Holm fight that Vieira had, Vieira landed some clean shots with some serious power. And Rocky has good boxing, like I said, but I think that Vieira might land the cleaner shots here and the more fight impacting shots. In a 3-round fight, I think that Vieira might step on the gas a little bit earlier in this fight. It's not going to be a walk in the park. Like I said, Raquel Pennington is a proven veteran. I could see this fight playing out very, very closely. I think this fight has split decision written all over it. But I'm going to lean towards Vieira's way. I think that fight against Holly Holm going 5 rounds, that obviously is going to do a lot for her. It's going to do a lot for her confidence, and I think that we'll see her skill set grow from that fight. And at times, Raquel Pennington, she can kind of go into cruise control. If you take a look at some of her losses, we've seen her go in cruise control at times, and I could just see Vieira kind of taking over a little bit here. So I'm going to side with her, but this is a fight that, like I said, I've been back and forth on. The fight can go either way. I also like the fact that I like the fact that Vieira is a little bit more in her prime at 31 years old, with Raquel Pennington creeping up to 35. Raquel Pennington, she's had her run already, although, of course, she's pushing right now for a run at the title. I mean, with the winning streak she's on, and I'm sure she's hungry to get another opportunity, but she knows what it's like to be in there with a girl like Amanda Nunes. If you guys remember how that fight went, her legs were absolutely chewed up. Ketlen Vieira, she's looking for her her first real shot, at the big time show, the big goal, fighting for the gold and whatnot. And I think that she might be a little bit more hungry, a little bit more confident in herself. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. But give me Ketlen Vieira, who's currently ranked the second fighter in the division. Juliana Pena, obviously, who just lost the belt. She's the number one contender still. You got Holly Holm there, and then you got Aldana, and then you got Pennington ranked 5th in the division. So this is a big fight for the division. But give me Ketlen Vieira to get the job done. Oh, excuse me here. Almost slipping on the betting line. Let's pull up the betting line here. We've been going at it, huh? My cardio's down, right, guys? We haven't done a full fight card prediction, so my cardio's down right now. This is it's like I got some cage rust here on the mic. So Ketlen Vieira, a -115, slight, ever so slight favorite over Raquel Pennington at a -105 line. It's essentially a pick 'em again. So whoever you feel that you want to roll with here, there's value in that line. It's a pick 'em line. So I'm going to go with the value on Vieira at the -115 line. Punalehi Seriano taking on Roman Kopylov. Roman Kopylov coming off a much needed victory. In fact, I believe that was his first victory in the octagon, right? That knockout victory over Alessio De Chirico, who's been struggling as far as his chin goes and whatnot. Roman Kopylov took advantage of that and did get the knockout victory. You guys know we did pick Kopylov in that fight. Not everybody was on Kopylov. We were over here. Before that, though, he had the tough loss to Albert Duryov, where he showed to dig deep in that third round, although he got bloodied up and his nose was broken and all that, but he showed to have some real heart in that fight. Before that, got styled on by Carl Robertson, and that was a horrible look. I believe that fight took place over towards his neck of the woods, and that was a major loss for him. That was 3 years ago, but you like the way that he kind of bounced back in the latter two fights. He's a solid dude, 6 foot, 75-inch reach there. Seriano's going to be a little bit undersized as he usually is. He's a fighter that really needs to use almost like a Mike Tyson type style to get on the inside. He has that big time power. When we've seen him prevail there many times. If you've been following Seriano like I have, even before the UFC, this is a fighter that's been going out there just landing nasty knockouts. I love the boxing that he possesses, coming off a big knockout over Dolce Lingambula. In fact, that was an official play of mine. Big knockout over Dusko Todorovic. I believe that may have been an official play of mine as well. The knockout over Oscar Pichota. Just making Oscar kind of disappear back to Poland. And again, you see finishes throughout his career early on as well. The knockout over Jonathan Patti, the rear naked choke victory over Jonathan Patti. Patti is a guy that a lot of us are familiar with, and prevailing against Jamie Pickett. And the Jamie Pickett fight that was on Dana White's Contender Series, that was a fight that, even though he didn't get that knockout, we knew what he was about as far as from an entertainment standpoint. He went in there and he was throwing bombs on Jamie Pickett the whole first half of that fight, and just wasn't able to clip him. But you gotta admire the fact that he goes in there and goes out there to knock dudes out. Losses to Brendan Allen and Nick Maximov. The Maximov fight, that one doesn't look that good because Maximov has been struggling. But the Brendan Allen fight, we understand that Allen's very legit. So listen, let's cut to the chase here. Where we've seen Seriano struggle at times is with his gas tank and just kind of blowing his load, looking for the knockout early, and then fighters out grappling him. I do believe that Roman Kopylov has potential to do that. We saw him dig deep in the third round against Albert Duryov. I could definitely see him taking over this fight late. But at the end of the day, I gotta lean Seriano here, just based on the fact that he's 30 years old. I expect him to look better and better. Putting in work at Extreme Couture over there in Vegas. I just think that we're going to continuously see a better version of him. And his striking has always been dangerous from the get-go. Kopylov that has the southpaw stance here. He's a little bit awkward on the feet, but we've seen him tagged and we've seen him hit. And I think that Seriano is going to land some big shots in this fight. And I think there's potential to see an early knockout for Seriano. The question mark will be if Seriano doesn't get that early finish, how does he look late? And I'll still back him. I'll back him up here. You see him working on some ground and pound over there at Extreme Couture. Just as long as Seriano comes in great shape here, this is his fight. All right, this is his fight, even if he doesn't get that early knockout. So I'm sorry, but I cannot erase the image of what Carl Robertson did to Kopylov. And we will take into consideration what Kopylov's 31 now. That fight was 3 years ago. I mean, he was 28 years old. It wasn't really that young, so maybe we will put him to the fire for that. I will not forget that fight, and I am on Soriano. Let's go take a look at the betting line here. Soriano is a minus 165 favorite over Roman Kopylov. That line pretty much on the head. It's a pretty accurate line there. I'll lean even towards Soriano's way, even with the minus 165 line. I like what I've seen. But again, if he's going to drop this fight, it's going to be based on him struggling late in this fight and Kopylov showing some improvements and just taking over this fight, using his size to lean on Soriano. He needs to mix in some grappling and whatnot, some wrestling to drown Soriano, but I'm still going to be rolling with my boy Soriano here. Dan Ige taking on Damon Jackson. Damon Jackson coming off, I'm going to say, the biggest victory of his career, a knockout victory over Pat Sabatini, where he was a pretty hefty underdog there. And then you got Dan Ige, who's really been struggling as of recently. He's only won one of his last 5 fights, but fighting top-level talent. Losses to Calvin Kattar, the Korean Zombie, Josh Emmett, and Movsar Evlovoyev. So, I mean, that's some serious talent, obviously. Had the victory over Gavin Tucker. Gavin Tucker, a talented fighter that's kind of disappeared since that fight. We know the deal with Dan Ige. Dan Ige, he's a solid grappler, has some serious jiu-jitsu, has also shown that he's a very good striker. He possesses some big-time power. He's just a very well-rounded fighter. Of course, another Extreme Couture product. He's obviously going to be very, very hungry for a victory here, just based on the production that he's had as of recently. He knows he needs a victory here. It doesn't matter just because you're going out there and you're fighting some of the top guys. It doesn't matter that you're having decent performances. If you're not getting the job done, I mean, the record says L. He does not need another L here. So I do expect to see a very, very motivated Dan Ige here. But Damon Jackson coming in with these 4 victories in a row, coming off the biggest victory of his career. We talked about that victory he had over Daniel Argueta. I know he's a weight class above Argueta, but I do hold Argueta's skill set and high praises, so that is a big victory. Damon Jackson was hurt in that fight and showed that he knows how to hold things together and knows how to survive in there. If he's hurt, he could rely on his grappling. Damon Jackson has some very, very high level grappling. He's a very tough wrestler. He has good jiu-jitsu skills. We've seen him pull off some nasty subs. If you walk into your local LA Fitness, you might see him sitting there tugging on a noodle, and you don't want to mess with this guy at the local LA Fitness, because he'll strangle you right there by the treadmill, and you don't want that to happen to you. So just be careful how you talk to Damon Jackson if you bump into him. But in all seriousness, Damon Jackson, a family man, and again, a fighter that he really has some solid grappling. But you like the fact that you see him working on other aspects of his game. Again, getting that victory over Pat Sabatini. I was on Pat Sabatini there, and I think that Pat played that fight wrong. He should have let that fight fall into the grappling world early on, which Damon Jackson would have allowed. And then I think that Pat Sabatini probably would have prevailed, because I'm very high on Sabatini's grappling skills. Of course, Jackson could do his thing there as well, but I think Sabatini would have prevailed. But Sabatini just stood on the feet a little bit too long and whatnot. But anyways, Jackson, 34 years old. The time is now for him. He's the larger man here. He's about 4 inches taller, a little bit more of the lengthy fighter, more naturally larger man. They have the same reach, but again, I really do believe that Jackson can kind of rely on his size when they're in the clinch and when they're in those positions. I think he should be leaning on Ige, and definitely shouldn't fall in love with his striking in a matchup with Ige here. I want to see him try to get this fight down to the mat, and you know what? I'm going to be taking Damon Jackson here. I just feel that Damon Jackson really has some momentum going. He's 22-4 as a pro. He's constantly proving that he's a very solid fighter. He got starched by Ilya Topuria, and he did get knocked out by Movlid Kybulov. If you remember that knockout that happened in 10 seconds, that in my opinion was the most ridiculous and outstanding knockout that I've ever seen. The victory for Movlid. But you know what? Jackson went back to the drawing board, and he's looked good. The victory over Mirsad Bektik was very impressive. I've always been very high in Bektik. Of course, Bektik out the game these days, but still, Bektik, the longtime American top team product. He was a prodigy back in the day. Went out there, finished him in the 3rd round, and I'm taking Damon Jackson over the Hawaiian here. So yes, that is going to be my pick, Damon Jackson. Let's go pull up the betting line. Damon Jackson, a slight underdog. He's a plus 105 here with the comeback on Dan Ige at minus 124. I've been seeing a lot of people leaning towards Ige's way. I get it. He has heavy hands. People think on paper he'll be the better striker. He could also grapple as well. But I think that Jackson and his unorthodox style will give Ige some problems, and I think that he can rely on his grappling down in the mat as well. It'll be close down there, but I'm going to lean Jackson. Give me Jackson to win the fight. So obviously, I do feel there's more value in a plus 105 line. The slight underdog is Damon Jackson. Give me him to win the fight. Want to throw this at your guys' way real quick. For the first card of 2023, you guys know I got to have the special promo. I'm giving you guys 2 free cards for my official plays if you sign up through my referral link for bovada.lv. Reach out to me through email, Instagram, or Twitter. I'll send you my referral link. I'll give you the instructions. You sign up. You're getting a 50% bonus when you sign up. You're getting an added bonus into your account. And just reach out to me. I'll give you guys all the details. But bovada.lv is my favorite sports book. And they give you legit bonuses, not those fake bonuses at some of these other major sports betting sites where they give you the money. And let's say you get a $50 extra added bonus. When you use that $50 to make a bet, the $50 disappears and you only keep the winnings. On bovada.lv, if you give you that $50, you make a bet, say you win $30, you get to keep that bonus money and you have $80, right? So watch these other sports books. A lot of major sports books are frauds. Bovada.lv takes care of you, 24/7 customer service, all that. And I'm giving you some free plays if you sign up, and I'll answer any questions for you on the site. And they're just very aesthetically pleasing. The website's the best. I truly believe that. I choose to use them as my referral. I could use any website that I want, and that they're who I like. So reach out to me if you're interested. Here we go. The first main event of 2023. You got the veteran, the former title challenger, Kelvin Gastelum, taking on Nassourdine Imavov, a fighter that is very much on the up and up, a fighter that is really looking to make a splash here. If he gets a big time victory over a guy like Gastelum here, the first fight card of the year, this is a big opportunity for him. Imavov has shown that he is very polished with his striking. He has shown that he has a high level of fighter IQ. If he's felt adversity in the cage before, we see him, relying on his IQ and tactics to avoid danger. Checks off a lot of boxes. Something that's definitely worth noting is the size advantage he has in this fight. He's 6'3" compared to Kelvin's 5'9". He has about a 3.5 inch reach advantage on the feet. This is nothing new for Kelvin. I do have to point that out as well. Kelvin's been in there with guys like Izzy and whatnot, but I do want to point that out. And I do think that really helps Imavov out. He knows how to strike from the outside, throws nice straight shots, and has proven now to be working on his entire craft, and he's becoming a very well-rounded fighter. Kelvin Gastelum, man, he's a fighter that's just so lackadaisical. He's so talented, but he's so lackadaisical, dating back to his old days where he struggled with the scale. We know that he's a fighter that just enjoys himself, and sometimes I wonder how serious he takes the game. I don't know. I shouldn't say that, because obviously to get to the level that he has, he obviously has to have been very serious and really put in the work. But if you guys catch my drift, man, at times I feel like he's just a little bit too easygoing. I don't know. And at the point he's at right now in his career, he's only 31 years old, but I feel like I've just seen him reach the highest heights that he'll have ever reached in his career. I know that's tough to say. Because like I said, he's still young, but he's been in these wars. If you remember the wars that he's been in, right? With Israel Adesanya, that fight, of course, stands out more than any. But he's been in some real battles. He's fought with some of the best of them. He's dropping fights recently to Jared Cannonier, Robert Whittaker. Got caught in an early sub by Jack Hermanson, talking about being a little bit lackluster in there at times, just kind of sleeping on the job. Got caught early. I thought he did defeat Darren Till, but that was a close fight. The Izzy fight, like I said, that was an absolute war. We've seen him in some wars though throughout the years. The Tim Kennedy fight was a big fight back in the day. I don't know, man. My gut just tells me that his time is kind of past as far as reaching the pinnacle that he has once had, which was fighting for the belt. I don't think we'll ever see him fight for the belt again. I think that we're more likely to see a guy like Imavov push through the rankings and eventually work his way to the top of the division. I know those are some bold words, but you guys know I do feel that the middleweight division is a little bit lacking, and that route is not that far off for a guy like Imavov. So right now, Imavov is ranked 12th. If he gets a big victory here, like we talked about, the first fight card of the year, we could definitely see him work his way up through the ranks. Now, let's see. Can we even find Kelvin? Kelvin's currently ranked 13th, and of course that's due to just the fact that Kelvin hasn't been that active. It's been over a year since he's been in there, and of course dropping all these fights. So he fell down in the rankings, but people still do respect the name. I see Imavov striking from the outside here, just mixing things up, coming in good shape, avoiding that big left of Kelvin's, avoiding or at least being able to nullify the wrestling of Kelvin. I don't see Kelvin really having major success with his wrestling. We know that he's a solid wrestler, but doesn't even always use those skills at times when he's in there. Doesn't use them as much as maybe he should. I think that Imavov's going to give him trouble here. I like Nassourdine Imavov to get the job done here. I think this fight most likely goes to a decision. Gastelum has proven to be very tough. I'm going to say that Imavov wins at least, of course, obviously at least 3, but I'm going to say he wins 4 of the 5 rounds. I think maybe Gastelum takes 1 round, and I'm going to say Imavov showcases what he's really about. I'm going to say he takes 4 rounds of the 5, okay? So, I mean, obviously, I'm expecting big things from Imavov. He's only 26, about to be 27 years old. And you know what I say about young fighters like that have already proven to be very talented. You're only going to see them be better and better versions of themselves. And I do believe that we're going to see the best version of Imavov training for a 5-round main event here. And give me Nassourdine Imavov. Now let's go take a look at the betting line here. Imavov is a -218, so just passing, going past that 2-1 favorite line. He's surpassing that -200 line. People are really respecting his skill set. Real quick, let's take a look at how this line has moved since it's been announced. And you see here, it opened at a -200 roughly. He's now a -230, so you see the action coming in on Nassourdine Imavov. And I'll show you a better graphic here if you click on that. Depending on the sports book, but opening up roughly around that -200 range, and on DraftKings dipping to -215, but we've seen it as low. You see it on FanDuel at -230. All right, so the line, the trajectory on the line kind of going towards Imavov's way, and I kind of expected that. We'll see if there's a little bit of a bounce back in Gastelum, but I wouldn't really hold my breath. I don't know. We'll see. I think when you see these guys at the face-offs and on the scales, you see Imavov looking much bigger. I think that people are going to be on to Imavov here. So that's my pick for the main event. Nassourdine Imavov to get the job done via unanimous decision. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up UFC Vegas 67. I definitely have some solid parting words for you guys with the first video of the year. I'm going to be asking a favor from you guys. I do believe I'm giving a little something back to you guys here, obviously, with these videos and trying to throw these motivational little parting words towards you guys. We should hold each other accountable, and that's what I want to say here, right? So going into the year 2023, first and foremost, we got to go towards the health side of things. Make sure you're taking care of yourself for real. Make sure you're eating good. Now is the time to really change bad habits. Let's start eating more healthy. I'm cutting out the carbs a little bit more. So luckily towards the end of the year, I did start to take care of myself a little bit better. Compared to the level I hold myself upon. I feel like I hold myself to a decent level. I'm not, not some roly-poly. I got a couple of abs popping out a little bit, but I'm really trying to step it up here. But I do want to start cutting out some of the carbs personally, and just overall, just being a more healthy person. And I want you guys to do that too. But besides that, more importantly, I've been telling you guys for a long time about these upgrades that this channel is going to have. And you guys have seen my subscribers, and they slowly have been climbing, slowly creeping up to that 6K subscriber mark. But I expect more from myself here, and I get a lot of messages from you guys asking me, why isn't my channel growing as much as maybe it should? I got my own thoughts on that. I won't go too deep into that, but I got some thoughts upon that I won't really mention. But other than that, there's some of the reason behind that is because of me, because I need to step things up over here. I told you guys I got the green screen finally ordered. I should have had that done earlier. A lot of things as far as the video production needs to be enhanced over here, and I know that, and that's what I'm working on now. So you guys are definitely going to be seeing that here in the next couple weeks. I have the green screen coming. I'm working on learning these different types of programs that I can make videos with to make the quality better to you. I need to work on getting the content out to you guys more, so I need to work on hopping on this mic and getting the video content out to you on the daily basis when there's things going on in the MMA world. And those are things that I'm going to be doing this upcoming year. So you're going to expect to see this this channel grow majorly. I've told you guys I want to get some of these big fighters back on the mic. I want to start interviewing some of these fighters. Doesn't need to be every week, but some of the cool and big names in the game, when I'm able to get these guys on the show, which I feel I am, like I have in the past, I'm going to get these guys on the show, and I'm going to do little live interviews once in a while. So I want to get a lot of cool and interesting content out to you guys. I hope I'm helping you guys out from a betting perspective as well. You know, putting in the research like I always do, watching the fight tapes and all that. So if you guys could, I want you guys to hold me to the fire, just like I will to you guys, because I'm going to be on the mic at every one of the end of these videos, you know, questioning you guys and being in your guys' ears, telling you guys, you know, I really hope that you're staying on the grind. And if you're not, you're going to feel like a piece of crap when you hear the teller in your ears there. So I want you guys to hit up the comment section if you see me slacking, if you see the production not stepping up. You guys you could ask me where I'm at as far as all that goes, but I promise you guys, you're going to see big things for the year 2023. And whatever you guys are doing, you know, whatever projects you have going on, or whatever you got going on with your work or your life, whatever you got going on, that's what I'm talking about when I'm getting on the mic. Stepping it up, working on things, making yourself feel good. You know, at the end of the night, when you lay down in your bed, feeling good about the work that you put in throughout the day on a daily basis. And then also, when it comes to enjoying yourselves too, you guys got to hold yourself to a high standard. You do deserve enjoying yourself, hitting up some vacations when you put the work in, or going out, you know, getting a bite to eat, getting some drinks, enjoying yourself, going down to the beach. You got to, you know, make sure you do that as well. Enjoy life, because life's short. All right, guys. So that's what it's all about for the year 2023. You guys know I'm very proud. We had another profitable year. That's back-to-back years. We had a very, very productive years. Substantial units brought in, and that's the same level of standard that I'm holding myself up to for 2023. I promise you guys I will deliver another profitable year as well. So when you're listening to my breakdowns on these fights, I promise to put in the work and put in the time breaking down the tape to make sure that you guys are getting something from these videos. All right, guys? So please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Catch me on all my social media. Much love to you guys as we enter the year 2023. Signing out. Teller.
Welcome to the show. This is the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.